Hi there. This is a wet molded phone case, specifically reference number 001, just says 1, but this is my one, this is what I'm going to keep. But I've made quite a few of these now. These are made via wet molding around this. This is a 3D printed phone, basically. I'm out of shot. This is the Unihertz Titan 2. It was on Kickstarter 3 months ago. I managed to nab their 3D model from their website via DevTools. It fits really quite nicely. I'll do that again actually closer, but so it just slots in all the port cutouts where they should be. Yeah, logo. Oh, too much light. There we go. Shall we go make one? I think we should. Oh, you need to come with me. Yeah. So, to make one of these cases, you need a couple of things. First, most importantly, leather. Obviously. This is veg tan. It's pretty firm. Also, I've not made a blue one yet, so that'll be interesting. Let's see what that comes out like. Made a green one. Obviously, I showed you my personal one once I get the phone. This one will probably go up for sale, unless it's gorgeous, and then I might borrow it long term. We'll see. So leather, obviously need that. Second thing is some form of, I say former, some kind of former. So we've got this. This is 3D printed. I designed this based on that. Same size, vaguely, cameras, buttons, etc. Apart from it's got a couple of, if you can see it, have a look like that, indentations. Those are for these. These are little jigs. Basically, this is the very bottom one. This is charging port, speaker, and microphone. These slot into those corresponding holes and basically say, when the lever's on there, where to punch. It just gives you a bit of a guide where to scribe and cut. So all that's 3D printed, designed myself. So if you want a shape, yeah, 3D print one and form around it. Also this is my vaguely useful, vaguely correct template for what I need to cut out to make one of these cases, how much leather I need to wrap around that entire former. It's also got the corresponding holes where I need to punch, which is for later on, is where pulled tightly around the former. So pretty straightforward. Take the template, find where you want it. I'm going to choose this side because it's slightly tougher than this side. This is slightly more malleable. Whack your pattern on there where it's going to go. And I like to initially kind of just lightly scribe around the corner I need, so I can then move the pattern out of the way. You can see the scribe line, and just properly get in there with a bit of pressure, and almost cut it out in one piece. And I've got a decent amount of scrap there to make something else with later. So there you go, you've got your kind of rough piece. So I don't know where my stitching awl is. Found it. Right, so basically hold this down with one hand and roughly, doesn't need to be perfect, drive around where you need to cut. I do like to take these straight edges off because, you know, it's just a bit neater. And then each one of those holes, just to give yourself a guide. And that's all you need the template for, is to basically create that pattern. I'll get that cut out. Oh, for the holes I've been using this. You could use a normal hole punch, but for this many holes, this close together, this works quite well. I've just shed little bits of leather everywhere, so I now need to clean that up as well. So after you've cut it out, you end up with something like that. That is your raw pattern. So I'll show you the next stages in a second, but long and the short of it is this goes here in the middle, and these get, once wet, they get wrapped up round the outsides, pulled really, really tight together with thread going back and forwards, and then you let it sit for what feels like an eternity, but it's actually like 24 hours, give or take. Probably doesn't even need that much, but it lets it dry off basically and set to that shape. And then you've got the whole process of trimming it down, cutting out the buttons, etc. Welcome to overexposed hell, also known as a really white bath, and a tub. I think this is actually a cat litter tray, I believe, but it's the right size and shape and it works. So initially, first thing to do, water. I use hot water. You just need kind of enough where it will cover the leather, really. Cool thing I saw this morning on my morning scrolls is adding PVA to the water. Now I've not done that yet before on any other one, but why not give it a go on a YouTube video? So I found some PVA because I've got a huge one lying around. That could be taken out of context. So I don't know how much to add. I'll just add that much because why not? And I haven't really got anything to stir it, so I'm just going to use like a ruler. That's mixed in. I'm probably going to cut that horrible noise because that was horrendous. The only thing to do now really is to throw this in. I'll throw it down, finished side down, just so I can then see if the flesh side is wet enough when I pick it out. But yeah, you literally just lob it in. Not sure if the PVA is what the PVA is gonna do. We'll find out. You see it starts bubbling. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. Basically, the water, I guess now PVA solution, is filling in all of the voids and basically soaking into the leather. We'll leave that for an hour, 40 minutes, hour, so it's fully kind of soaked in. It probably doesn't need that, but I like to leave it to fully kind of soak in, and then we'll come back and stretch it around the former. So while we're waiting for that to soak, we might as well get the other bits prepped that we need. Thread, needle, and we've got our, obviously, former. Different to most things, only need one needle, we need a lot of thread. So like, a little bit more, probably about that much. Might still need more than that, but we'll get there when we get there. So obviously needle, so it's slightly different as well. This is a, try and get that in focus, probably never going to be in focus, but a very curved needle, like you can see that. So you can slip it in and out. It will all make sense when we get to that bit. So if we just wang that on there, once through, twice through, that'll do, twice through, and just pull that down through. So that end, that needle is now locked on. And then the other end, this end, we want, and I always struggle with this, use my mouth a little bit, we want to tie a knot in it basically, but we want to tie like a loop into it. There we go. So you end up with like a loop tied in the end. I'm just going to whack another knot, just knot. It kind of slips a little bit, but it's not anything major. And then you can just cut off the excess. So that is a lot of thread, a needle and a loop. That will all make sense. So it's been a little while now. So once you get it out, you should see it's like completely like saturated. There's nothing, like you put it in, no bubbles, anything. It's interesting, this PVA method, it definitely, like when you let that dry, it is quite sticky, so it'd be interesting to see if it helps it stiffen it. So, next thing to do after this is take it out and just give it a vague drying off, just with some paper towels, just so we don't end up dripping just absolutely everywhere. But basically, yeah, you just dry off the really like the wet. But yeah, basically you want it still wet, but not dripping wet. And then we go to the next stage, which is wrapping the former. So this bit is where we start having fun. So there's no specific bits I want to avoid. So basically, whack this down, you whack this down as vaguely centre as you can get it. I wonder if I can get a better camera angle for this. Okay, I think that's slightly better. Yeah, so you basically centre this as much as you can, and then it's a game of like basically wrapping it really tight around there. Now the best way of doing this, I based this off a video I watched, of one video, two videos, is, so we've got our needle and thread, so that goes through, we start in this corner here. Basically pull that all the way through. This is going to take a minute. So you throw that all the way through, and then that loop that we made earlier, the needle goes through that, and you almost, I guess in some fashion, put that all the way through. You almost create yourself a saddle stitch lock on this corner. So once that's done, obviously re-center everything because you're knocking things around a lot. I think that's okay. So then you go needle, when I pick that up. So that goes, so this wraps around, and this, how I've stabbed myself, this goes through the top of this one, and you go all the way through again. There's a lot of thread to work your way through. You need to make sure it doesn't wrap around like that, and that gives you your initial pull. And then you do the same again, needle, and then through this one. It's really difficult to do with the camera right in front of me. And then you pull that again all the way through and pull it tight. It's really, really important to pull it tight. Like, I could almost like play a tune on those. That's how tight they are. And then you can basically work your way around. So I'll carry on recording, but I will just time lapse it because otherwise it will take forever. Okay, so got to the end of that first row. So when you get to there, so you've got all of those, really tight. I find the best one to do first is this top one here, because you can literally just flick the needle over into that first one, pull, and kind of get a vague one there, and then it's the same again across these. So you do both edges first. The reason we're using that curved needle, if you had a straight one, you'd be like going down into the former or into the lever below, whereas with the curved needle you can easily work it around. So once you've got the end of all those, all these are really tight. I like to aim for this top corner first, last in a little bit. So we go from this very far corner here to up to these top edges here. I keep nudging the camera, I apologise, but not a huge amount of room to do this. Now the corners are complicated, so I try and open up the layers underneath a little bit, as much as we can, because then you get a slightly crisper edge. And same again, really hard, really starting to cut into my fingers, which is a good sign. Cross into that top one. So again, opposites. So you put that there. You want to make sure it goes over the top and not over the side. Open these up a little bit and really pull. Again, same in this edge, and we'll sort these corners out again a little bit in a second. I'll show you. So that thread there I just put in is going through those stitches, and that, I think there's going to be a bit of a fold there, but that can't be helped because that happens anyway. So anyway, to finish this off, basically you take what is remaining of the thread and you feed it under as much as possible and pull, and then feed it under as much as possible again and pull, but this time you start knotting it. So same again, through, pull, and then you get this really tight, neat bundle. And then the final one I do is actually just directly through the middle of that knot, and again just out, knot that, and that will hold for quite a while. So you cut that off and you're left with this, which is your, well, your really blasted my nail into that, so that's probably ruined this one. And then you just start, yeah, I've just like properly scuffed the leather there. It might come out, it might not, but basically you then go around with a hammer and just, especially on the edges, just try and tamp them around and down. Because then you almost get those nice crisp edges. Because you can start seeing there, I don't know if it comes up on the video, but just here, I can just about feel them under there. Yeah, you can kind of see them there. Are the two programmable buttons. You can kind of see those. There you go. So you kind of, yeah, work it round, tamp it down. Don't smash your nail into it like I did by accident there. For the camera bump, it's just a process of kind of pushing it into place, getting that vague definition there, and then as it dries, it all tightens anyway. Then the final step really, which is on my desk somewhere, there it is to put in the stamp, my logo. That's really annoying. That's like, obviously it will get worse over time and, you know, these things happen, but that was really nice until I did that. Again, it might stretch out, we'll have to see. It's really irritating. So yeah, basically I go in with a G-clamp while it's still wet. I'll give it a little while to kind of settle onto the form because it's quite soft at the moment. Come in, whack that there, G-clamp it down. I say put it there, it's like, I just kind of eyeball center really. So each one is unique. What I should have added, so now this is like this, obviously put the stamp in. It then takes 24 hours to dry before you can actually then start taking the stitching out. The one that I didn't show you actually, while it's wet, there's a little groove that runs all the way through this. I don't know if I've got the other, former here somewhere. Yep, there it is. On the former there's this groove. And this is the groove that basically I follow with the skiving knife to give the nice crisp, I think it's like 1 and a bit millimeter edge. It's also the groove that I slipped out of and smashed the skiving knife into the end of my thumb. That was fun. But basically it gives you a kind of path to follow. And while it's wet, you can take a bone folder and you can give yourself some guidelines just for when you do come back and you're like, where the hell am I meant to be skiving? Where the hell am I cutting this? This is now dry. It's actually been sat drying for a week. It's been quite a busy week and I've not got much time this time now, so hopefully we'll get through as much of this as we can. So yeah, completely dry. I want to say as well, I think it feels slightly firmer than just normal water, like the PVA. So we'll find out. Like I said as well, that scratch is still there, but it has stretched out, and also, like I mentioned, the buttons and cutouts are now a lot easier to see where they're going to be. So first thing to do is to scribe where the camera cutout needs to be. And for that, we need to be ludicrously careful not to scratch the outside, but to scratch the inside. So you just got some calipers set to a specific distance. And I'll probably get in the way of the light for a second while I zoom in after. But it's just a task of really slowly so you can kind of see there the scratch marks. So easiest thing to do now, what I like to do, is that the one? Do we do that one? Yeah, so 2mm punch. For some reason my set never came with 3. I like to try and find the corner, which is there, and then you just bear down on it. And that gives you kind of your, basically your center, kind of almost your aiming point. Right, I'll do. Anyway, so that gives you kind of corners, and basically you just go from this edge across to the next one. You can tell when it's
hit the plastic because it sounds different. And that comes out. And obviously that all gets a little bit of a sand and burnish anyway, so let's try and get rid of this. Now it does overhang the cameras a little bit here, but not enough to actually cause any issues, basically. And we are very close to the screen at the bottom, but again, straighten that out. There we go. Much better. So that then gets beveled in a second. I could bevel it now. I've got the beveler right here. Looks smooth enough. So we just go around. Take off the sharp edges. There we go. And that is kind of without, well, obviously it gets burnished and neatened up afterwards, but that's kind of your finished camera cutout. So the next thing to do, once you've done that, is to take the front off. You take the Skyward knife, it's got basically a beveled edge and a flat edge. The flat edge you want against the outside of the case. I don't know if I can get a good angle of doing this. So basically you take up, try and fold those flaps up that we worked so hard to pull all the way down. So you can see how it's all holding its shape really well. So that's got those four corners off, and then you've got kind of this flat bit to work off of. There we go. Okay. They go in the bin. Completely missed the bin them. I like to find my mallet. Just because where you cut, it kind of obviously causes like a sharp-ish edge. Just try and tamp down any really sharp edges. So this is the fun bit. So skiving knife. So basically you go in very gingerly. And do like a first pass. So that now pulls up, but this is still overhanging too much. We'll come back and fix that once all the sides are off. There we go. Apparently I can't hit the bin today. So that gives you like your vague front portion. So after I've done that, so the next job is to go in, hold it really close, and then just work the skiving knife up to the point where you can feel it also rubbing against the plastic, like the little gutter that we've created in there. And basically that gives you a nice clean edge, which you've just got to work around until you hit the far end, and you end up with a nice clean edge along that one side. So basically you do that on all four sides and you have a cleaned up case. I'll just do that quickly off camera because I have to hold it quite close to me to actually get it done nicely. Right, so that's done. So all the front is now completely free, and we've now got access to our holes. So that's obviously the next step. Easy one to start with is the tiny one up here. So goes in, you make sure it's flat and straight. You take your little awl and you just, it wobbles a little bit, but you sort it out later with some sandpaper. And it gives you this is where you need to cut. And you go whoop and whoop, and you go jump. No, sound effects are needed as well. Helps the process. You just rattle it round, and yeah, you can kind of see this on top of the bumps. So that's describing that, and then you take. So basically, same as the back, I go in, line it up, kind of give it a little push just to see if it is lined up, and I just like pencil sharpen them away than previous. There you go, it's come out. And I can see the top half of the 3D printed button. So you do the same the other side, you get the piece out. So there you go, there's your two sides of the button, and then you basically come in with your knife and connect the dots. I'm using my finger as like as leverage to push down on the blade. So then that pops out. Obviously, again, you'll we'll just run that. Just doesn't run all the way around generally, and just running that round those two edges. I'll run a little bit of sandpaper around that when I take it off, but you've then got your, if it would ever, you kind of got focus there. You've got your button cut out, and you just do that for each and every one. Cool. Okay, so all the buttons and ports are now cut out roughly. So time to take it off the former. So the easiest way to do that is just to pop those two top corners out and do that, and not throw that on the floor. I would say that feels a lot more sturdy than, like, these are probably around about the same thickness of leather. Yeah, I'd say this has got a bit more sturdiness. Interesting. So what's left to do now is to finish the edges, number it, which I've got the pen right here. So that's how I did. Yeah, I would say that PVA method might actually be quite good. I've got the actual 3D printed mock-up here, so you can try this. If we put it in, usually there's like a slightly favourite side, but actually that's slipped in quite well. Looks like we've got button access, USB-C port. I have a USB-C charger right here. Might need a little bit of a sanding, but fits. Does it fit, or does it get caught there? Yeah, so the C port needs a little bit of a sand on this one. I think it just needs to be expanded outwards a little tiny bit. And the front of the device. Yeah. So I just need to clean it up a little bit, and that's pretty much the process. I don't think there's much else to show. I'm just gonna kind of token all the edges, widen the Type-C port. So yeah, I don't know where my one's got. The green case is on my desk somewhere. There it is. I'm gonna keep the green one. I've been using this for, I've been having this phone in my pocket for the last month or two. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's some really nice aging and patinaing going on this now. So these are going to age really, really nicely, which is exciting. And yeah, hopefully once it's got out in the wild, seeing people use them long term and seeing how they change with people's use is going to be really nice. And I don't know how the blue one will age because it's quite dark, so I guess to say it's going to pick up scratches and things, so that'll be interesting to see. But there we go. That's the process. There are now 7 of them ready for sale because one of them is mine. Yeah, thank you for watching. Do all the standard stuff, like the video, subscribe for more random leathercraft stuff. I have got other projects coming up. I'll put that over there to finish. But yeah, there we go. Leather phone case. You could tweak this for other devices as well, but obviously as I'm getting this one soon, this was the obvious one to choose. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day, evening, week. Goodbye.